Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving deep into an executive risk report that exposes a massive systemic flaw. We're looking at Social Security through the lens of modern operational risk management. Why do these massive legacy administrative systems fail to protect everyday employees, even when they look perfectly sleek and modern on the outside? Let's get right into it.
Okay, I want to hook you right out of the gate with a massive paradox. 5%. In today's highly digitized world, citizens who just want to access their own Social Security or Provident Fund, literally their own hard-earned money, are still being forced to pay a massive 5% commission to private PF withdrawal consultants just to execute routine transactions. Think about that. 5% of your life savings just gone, handed over to a middleman.
So it begs the question, right? If this system is supposedly fully online, why on earth does a massive middleman industry even exist? Look, we've seen incredible front-end progress over the last decade. You get your universal account number instantly, SMS alerts pop up the second a deposit hits, and we have these shiny online passbooks. And yet, this entire shadow economy is just thriving right underneath it. You know, early in my corporate risk management career, I heard these absolute horror stories. Blue-collar workers losing huge chunks of their savings simply because an outsourced manpower firm vanished overnight, or they just couldn't cut through the bureaucratic red tape to get their cash out. That fear is incredibly real, and as we're going to see, it's totally systemic. Section 1. The Digital Facade Paradox. Unmasking the system. Let's pull back the curtain and see what's actually going on behind the screen here. The core architectural failure we're dealing with is a concept known as the digital facade. Basically, this is what happens when a massive organization modernizes its front-end user interface, making it look all sleek and automated, but quietly preserves all of its back-end manual loopholes. In risk management, we have this fundamental rule: technology alone never cures corruption. It just relocates it. A digital facade gives us this really dangerous illusion of efficiency, but the underlying power dynamics, the actual people who can say yes or no to your money, they haven't changed one bit. Because of this, the system operates on what we call inverted logic, built on three major failure points. See, in a properly built system, matching IDs, account numbers, and bank KYC should trigger an automatic, instant approval. But here, the logic is totally inverted. First, you've got discretionary override gates, meaning perfect digital matches are still routed to a human field officer for a manual sign-off. Second, there's manufactured technical ambiguity. Officials can literally weaponize tiny discrepancies, like a decade-old spelling variation, to arbitrarily reject your claim. And third, a total breakdown of SLA enforcement. Service-level agreements are completely useless if an official can just hit reject without facing any strict accountability. This brings us to a really fantastic insight straight from the risk report. Quote, digitization without complete systemic re-engineering does not increase efficiency. It merely increases the speed at which a user hits a human roadblock. End quote. I mean, that's such a powerful way to frame it, isn't it? You aren't actually getting a faster approval. You are just getting a faster automated rejection. It's literally automated inefficiency operating at scale. Moving to Section 2, the institutionalized tax, buying certainty. Let's look at how this friction actually builds that shadow economy we mentioned. So when a system is deliberately this complex and frustratingly unpredictable, the free market is always going to step in to eliminate that friction. That fear of systemic rejection creates a desperate demand for predictability, and boom, that demand creates the 5% middleman. It essentially results in institutional bribery. The old days of slipping some cash to a single clerk, yeah, those are gone. They've just been upgraded into a highly structured B2B consultant model. Here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. That 5% commission people are paying out, it is definitely not a paperwork fee. No way. It is a premium paid for certainty. These intermediaries act like a toll gate. They have direct lines to specific field offices, and they know exactly which invisible, arbitrary markers need to be cleared to bypass that manual override block we just talked about. But by basically forcing citizens to use these middlemen, the system introduces massive external vulnerabilities. Think about it. Everyday people are routinely handing over highly sensitive operational credentials, passwords, ID numbers, bank details, to third-party, completely unregulated entities just to get their own money. This opens up widespread vector points for identity theft, credential leaks, and systemic fraud. It's a colossal operational risk that's just masquerading as a convenience. And honestly, the financial inefficiencies don't stop there. 12 to 18 months. Just let that staggeringly high number sink in.
That is how long it routinely takes for the system to post annual interest to individual accounts. In modern financial engineering, distributing interest is a batch processing task. A computer should knock that out in a few hours, maybe a couple of days tops. Taking over a year, that is a massive, glaring red flag. So, why does this matter to us? Well, delayed credits completely compromise financial transparency. By masking the aggregate liabilities of the fund, departing employees are forced to do these incredibly chaotic, messy calculations when they try to settle their accounts. And what happens when a worker is confused, frustrated, and literally can't figure out their true balance? Yep, they are driven right back into the arms of those specialized consultants just to salvage whatever cash they can. Section 3. Liquidity over security. The worker's rational choice. This perfectly explains the behavioral risk side of things and why employees often fight to avoid formal deductions in the first place. If you actually put yourself in the shoes of a blue-collar laborer, their historical aversion to these deductions makes total rational sense. Just contrast these two realities. On one hand, 1 rupee in hand today represents immediate survival equity. They need that to live, to eat right now. On the other hand, a promised rupee trapped 20 years down the line behind a totally unpredictable bureaucratic firewall, given all the hurdles we've just outlined, opting for the lowest possible deduction isn't irresponsible. It's a perfectly logical survival strategy. Because at the end of the day, a single broken promise destroys trust. When subcontractors deduct funds from a worker's paycheck but delay actually depositing them into the system, the employee bears 100% of the operational risk, with absolutely zero real-time recourse. When that happens, the Social Security benefit completely ceases to be a financial asset in the worker's mind. It just becomes another institutional tax they desperately try to avoid. All right, Section 4, the structural prescription, engineering the fix. We aren't just here to admire the problem. Let's look at exactly how we dismantle this corrupt equilibrium. Risk officers need to step up and champion real architectural solutions, not just slap on more cosmetic software patches. Here are 3 concrete steps to fix this mess. Step 1. Mandate straight-through processing, or STP. If the APIs verify your identity, those funds must move automatically within 48 hours. Zero human intervention. Step 2. Implement exception-based routing. Human inspectors should only ever look at claims that an algorithm specifically flags as anomalous. And Step 3. Strict reason code accountability. If an official absolutely has to reject a claim, they must select from a legally binding drop-down menu. No more vague, typed-out excuses. The true power of this structural prescription lies entirely in accountability. If we implement those strict drop-down codes, we can finally track the data. If a specific official's rejection rate suddenly spikes compared to the national average, bam, an automated internal compliance audit should trigger immediately. You remove the shadows, you remove the shadow economy. It's that simple. I really want to leave you with this powerful thought from the report because it beautifully summarizes the core philosophy of operational risk. Quote, "True modern governance is not measured by the beauty of an online portal. It is measured by the complete elimination of arbitrary human gatekeepers." End quote. That is the ultimate goal of real digitization, folks. It's not about making things look pretty on a screen. It's about making them perfectly functional, objective, and fair. Now, I want to turn it over to you. The theory is one thing, but the real-world impact is what truly matters, which is exactly why people still fight to avoid these deductions when they can. PF still scares people. Have you or maybe your friends or family ever faced these kinds of systemic roadblocks with PF transfers or withdrawals? How did you actually overcome that issue? And based on everything we've covered today, do you believe manual decisions should just be completely removed from the process? Let's discuss this down in the comments. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Stay curious, and I'll catch you in the next one.